After 2 years of studying abroad, I finished my studies early and returned home, excited to prepare for my marriage. But while setting up the wedding room, I discovered the thousands of plane tickets that my boyfriend of 10 years had carefully kept. He traveled to the UK at least once a month, but never to see me, even though I was only 100 kilometers away from his destination. I arrived early at the spot where he had set up for the proposal and saw him kneeling, proposing to someone else. "Patricia, will you marry me? As long as you say yes, I'll immediately arrange for a new bride." His gaze was full of longing, and I dared not move another step forward, since I wasn't the one he wanted to spend his life with. Then this wedding should be for them. But after I fled the wedding, he crossed oceans and searched the world for me. Chapter 1. The proposal scene, decorated with roses and bathed in warm yellow light, was both romantic and suggestive. Lucas knelt on one knee, just as I had imagined countless times for my own proposal. But the person standing in front of him wasn't me. "Patricia, will you marry me?" Patricia covered her lips with one hand while the other trembled as she took the roses from him. A dazzling diamond ring was soon placed on her finger. They embraced tightly and kissed passionately, and the sounds of their intimacy wafted toward me. I couldn't help but caress the couple's rings Lucas had sent me across the ocean. I hadn't told him that the ring was too big to prevent it from falling off. I wrapped a red string around it. Years of wear had made the red string weak, and as I tugged it, it unraveled. The ring slipped off my finger and rolled into the drain, just as Lucas had slipped away from me after 2 years abroad. An ill-fitting ring, lost without need of recovery. A man who didn't love me, gone without need of pursuit. "Lucas, I hope your wedding goes as planned." "Why?" "I only want to marry you, because I want to crash your wedding. That way, I can prove that you love me the most." My steps faltered. I was curious to see just how far Lucas would go to hurt me for Patricia. "You naughty girl, only you could come up with such a trick." "Well, I'll need to prepare a pair of running shoes then, so I can run faster than you did when you tried to escape your wedding." "Are you really going to do this to Helen?" Keeping my promise to marry her was already my limit. If she can't keep her husband, she can't blame me, can she? Their laughter rang out, cutting deep into my heart. I turned around, leaned against a tree, and found that my legs were too weak to move. Fearing they'd hear me cry, I pressed my mouth shut and fled. But halfway there, my legs gave way, and I fell to the ground. I returned home, humiliated, and called my PhD supervisor. "Professor, about that research project you mentioned, I'm in. I'll join the team." The professor was thrilled but also puzzled. "Didn't you say you were going back to settle down after marriage? Or did your husband agree to continue with a long-distance relationship? You know, it's hard to make a marriage work when living in different countries. Are you sure you won't reconsider?" I wiped the dirt from my scraped knees, each touch sending a sharp pain through me. "The wedding has been cancelled. From now on, I'll be your right-hand woman." Immersing myself in research, the professor, who had treated me like his own daughter, immediately sensed something was off. "Today's the deadline. I'll add your name to the list. Come back soon, and we can dive into work. When we're busy, we won't have time to think about anything else." Don't blame me for saying this, but in the past 2 years, you've always gone back to see him, but he's never come to visit you in the UK. That's enough to show he doesn't love you that much. If you've made up your mind to let go, then don't dwell on the past. If it weren't for that thick stack of plane tickets, I would have easily rebutted my professor's claim that he doesn't love you that much. No wonder, at the end of every month, he was too busy to contact me. Turns out, he was busy flying halfway around the world to be with Patricia. For 2 whole years, I had been like a fool, desperately racing through assignments and publishing papers, just to find time to fly back home to see him. Those brief moments together, after long flights, had been the happiest times of my life. But my love that crossed oceans became a joke in the face of the plane tickets Lucas kept hidden. On my way to the proposal scene, I even tried to convince myself that maybe he was traveling to the UK for work. But when I saw him proposing to Patricia, the one who had tormented me before, I finally understood why. Even though we were only 100 kilometers apart, he wouldn't come to see me. Patricia didn't want him to see me, so he deceived me with sweet words of longing. He knew full well that Patricia and I were enemies. To be exact, after my father remarried, Patricia and her mother had become the biggest shadow of my childhood. I had imagined countless scenarios over the 2 years of long-distance love, wondering if Lucas had fallen for someone else. But I never imagined he would fall for Patricia and agree to humiliate me at the wedding just to please her. I soaked in the warm bathtub, my body slowly stopping its tremors. Lucas's phone call came in. Helen, where are you? I'm already at the park. Chapter 2. I stayed silent. Lucas grew anxious. Helen, what's wrong? Are you upset? Where are you? I'll come pick you up now. He was still so thoughtful, able to keenly sense my emotions, and knew exactly how to provide me with a sense of security. I'm at home. I don't want to go to the park today. Lucas was silent for a moment, then continued to coax me. Okay, I'll come home and keep you company. He didn't question why I had stood him up. It wasn't because he loved me so much that he could tolerate my whims. It was because he had already successfully proposed to Patricia in the carefully arranged scene. I was just his plan B, the fallback for when his original plan failed. When Lucas entered the house, I had just come out of the bathroom, seeing Patricia behind him. I couldn't help but frown. What are you bringing her back for? Was he so eager to slap me in the face? Lucas, looking a bit guilty, rubbed his nose. Helen, I ran into Patricia downstairs and found out she lives in our neighborhood. She heard you were back in the country and insisted on coming up to apologize to you. I looked at him coldly, watching his performance. Helen, it was my mother and I who were wrong back then. I apologize on her behalf. Can you forgive us? I trembled as I asked Lucas. So, you think I should forgive her and her daughter? The pain of my eardrums bursting, the pain of being whipped with a bamboo cane until my legs went numb, the pain of my mother's belongings being burned to ashes in the fire. I didn't ask him why he had fallen in love with Patricia. It would have made me seem too pathetic. Lucas's guilt faded as I stubbornly waited for his answer. Helen, Patricia was just a child back then. How could she understand what was right and wrong? She's felt guilty for many years. And she's already apologized to you. Why hold on to the past and continue to be so resentful? The emotional and physical abuse that led me to the hospital, that was the past. Not forgiving Patricia was being petty. It was Lucas who had taken me to the hospital, and he knew better than anyone how much I despised my stepmother and stepsister. Yet, he had fallen in love with Patricia and stood on the opposite side of me. Lucas tried to grab my hand and make peace with Patricia. I slapped his hand away, my voice cold and biting. Lucas, what gives you the right to ask me to forgive them? Behind my father's back, they abused me, deceived him into hating me, and after my father passed, they didn't even give him a proper funeral. Lucas stared at the back of his hand where I had slapped him, and couldn't help but frown in confusion and displeasure. Helen, I'm doing this for your own good. Now that you have no father and no mother, Patricia and her daughter are your only family. Why hold on to the past and let it cause you so much pain? People have to look forward, don't they? Lucas's words were sincere, his calm face now tinged with the familiar impatience. But there was no longer the familiar tenderness and care in his eyes. I felt my heart, already shattered, crumble completely into dust. It hurt so much that I could barely speak, and in Patricia's eyes, I saw the same mix of triumph and provocation that I had seen in the past. Helen, if you don't forgive me, that's okay, but I will always repent and feel guilty until you recognize me as your family, even though we share no blood. Go to hell. Chapter 3. I gripped the hallway tightly to keep myself from trembling too much. Lucas's impatience was clearly written on his face. Helen, why are you being so unreasonable? No one is perfect. Where has your tolerance gone? He had witnessed me being pushed to the brink of suicide by Patricia and her mother. Back then, he would have argued with them for me, even cursing at them in anger. What was it that had driven him to the opposite side of me? To start defending Patricia? I let the pain overwhelm me and spoke to Lucas, each word heavy with bitterness. Unless she dies in front of me, I will never forgive her. A vein in Lucas's forehead bulged, his anger barely contained. He had looked the same way when he cursed out Patricia and her mother for me. Helen, it's only been 2 years. How could you turn into this vicious person? Fine. If you won't forgive her, then apologize to Patricia. I don't want people laughing at my fiancé as a petty and malicious woman. Your mother's suicide was her own weakness. If she had cared about you, your father wouldn't have remarried after being widowed. Don't blame Patricia and her mother for all your misfortunes. Her mother was wrong, but she didn't deserve to die. If you, like your mother, keep dwelling on the past and can't get over it, then you deserve to have nightmares every day. He practically ground his teeth as he spat out the word nightmares. The disgust that flashed across his face was unmistakable. So, the man who once swore to protect me for life had grown tired of me being a nightmare. In the end, all my misfortunes and suffering had become the weapons he used to hurt me, stabbing me relentlessly, until I was left broken. The man who used to be heartbroken when he heard about my nightmares, who would hold me and say, "Helen, as long as I'm here, no nightmare, no demon can hurt you." Now, he was the one pushing me back into the abyss. He blamed me for Patricia's actions and said I deserved it. I trembled uncontrollably, and my grip on the hallway loosened. I staggered back, nearly falling. Lucas was quick to steady me and then noticed that my knee was swollen and red. He immediately squatted down to check the injury. "How did you hurt your knee so badly?" "Forget it. If you don't want to apologize, I'll apologize for you. But you can't be so rude from now on." I pulled my hand away with all my strength, my face pale as I pointed to the door. "Get out! Both of you! Get out!" Lucas knew how fragile I was at this moment and tried to hold me to calm me down. But Patricia, tearfully, bowed to me. "Helen, I'll leave now. Please, don't keep torturing yourself because of me." She ran toward the door, but in her haste, she slammed into the doorframe, stumbling and falling to the side. Lucas immediately released me and rushed to catch Patricia. Both of them tumbled outside. Despite his efforts, Patricia's head still hit the doorframe, instantly turning red, with a trace of blood oozing out. Lucas stood up, holding her tightly, rushing toward the elevator. "Patricia, does it hurt? I'm taking you to the doctor right now." The door finally fell silent. My heart sank to the bottom. 10 years of acquaintance, 10 years of love, and it had all come to this, strangers on different paths. I took out my phone and booked a flight for the day of the wedding. Only 7 days left. Just enough time for me to tie up all the loose ends of the past. Lucas was right, people need to look forward. From now on, I would completely sever ties with the happiness and pain of the past. Chapter 4. I threw away the newlywed items I had carefully prepared. This was never my home, and now, there was not a trace of me left. In the end, only the tickets I had lovingly kept as my love journal remained. Hesitating for only a moment, I tossed them one by one into the fire pit. Each ticket consumed by the flames represented a version of me that loved Lucas. When it was all over, only a pile of ashes and the acrid smell of smoke remained. It was just like the love I had held for him over the past 10 years. The next morning, the smell of food woke me up. "Helen, hurry and wash up. I've already made breakfast. You eat first. I'm going to take breakfast to Patricia. You don't need to go, okay?" Lucas paused for a moment as he packed the thermos. "Don't feel guilty. Patricia doesn't blame you. After breakfast, we'll go pick out a new engagement ring. The custom one had some issues and won't arrive in time for the wedding." Okay. He liked to play his little acts, and I was more than happy to play along. Maybe seeing my indifference, Lucas nervously took the first aid kit and began applying medicine to my knee. "Helen, we've been in love for many years. Everything I do is for your own good. I don't want you to be the only one without family at our wedding. You said you couldn't find a bridesmaid, so I've already decided Patricia will be your bridesmaid." "Okay." Lucas spoke cautiously, and when he saw me agree so readily, disbelief flashed in his eyes. Then he grabbed my hand and pressed a warm, wet kiss on it. After he delivered breakfast to Patricia, he didn't come back. I was scrubbing my palms frantically when his call came in. "Helen, finish your meal and come down to the garage. I'll be waiting for you in the car." In the garage, I opened the passenger seat door out of habit, only to find that Patricia was already sitting there. Without a word, I sat in the back. Lucas glanced at me a few times, pleased with my compliance. "Helen, Patricia is a jewelry designer. With her here, She can definitely help you choose the perfect engagement ring. I nodded and closed my eyes, pretending to nap, unintentionally opening my eyes. I saw Lucas gently pinch Patricia's face. In the rearview mirror, our eyes met, and he immediately panicked. Trying to explain, Patricia had something stuck to her face. I was just helping her wipe it off. I closed my eyes again until we arrived at the store. When we entered the jewelry store, the attendant greeted Patricia, who was sitting close to Lucas, with excessive enthusiasm. "Sir, what would you like to buy for your beloved today?" Patricia and Lucas both blushed. Lucas quickly pulled me over. "Why are you standing so far away? Come on, let's pick out the engagement ring." The attendant blushed too, quickly taking out rings for me to choose from. But Patricia immediately started pointing out flaws. "This one's too small. This one's color is off." None of the rings seemed good enough when compared to the one on Patricia's finger. The attendant glanced at me awkwardly, unsure of what to say. But Patricia pretended not to notice and finally picked out a very ordinary one. "Helen, let's go with this one. You can use it for the wedding, and I'll design one for you that's even prettier later." The attendant awkwardly complimented her taste. Patricia, however, smugly shoved her hand in front of my face. "Of course it's pretty. This was custom designed by my fiancé." Lucas stood there silently, watching her show off to me. He didn't stop her, nor did he feel guilty. He just smiled, his grin melting in the spring breeze. "Let's buy the one Patricia chose." They didn't even bother with trying it on. Lucas paid right away. He took the ring, and without a word, placed it on my finger. No kneeling, no roses, no proposal. This time, the ring wasn't big, it was forced onto my finger. I knew Patricia was doing it on purpose. She was a jewelry designer, so she could easily tell the size. She couldn't have made such a big mistake. I couldn't be bothered to expose her, so I simply took the ring off. The attendant kindly reminded me that I could exchange it for another one, but I refused. "We just bought it for the sake of formality. Don't trouble yourself." Upon hearing this, Lucas was displeased by my sarcastic tone. "If you're not happy, we can return it. Patricia can have one custom made for you later." I shook my head and rejected the offer. "This one's fine. It's good enough." Patricia, however, had a look of guilt on her face and almost cried again. "Helen, I'm going to work extra hours at the studio and design something perfect for you. You'll have a beautiful wedding." With that, she hurried off, ignoring Lucas's calls to stop. "Helen, what's wrong with you? It's just an engagement ring. Why are you making a fuss?" I was stunned. "What am I making a fuss about?" He clenched his lips and pulled me out of the store. "My company has things to handle. We'll take the wedding photos some other time. Or, you can take the solo shots first, and I'll have the designers Photoshop my suit in for the wedding." "Okay." His explanation got stuck in his throat. He stared at me for a long while, then gently hugged me. "Helen, once I'm done with work, I'll take you on a honeymoon, and we'll take wedding photos during our trip." His casual mention of the honeymoon was nothing but an insult to me. He had no time to visit me in the UK, but had plenty of time to accompany Patricia to Antarctica to see penguins and the Arctic to see the aurora, watching the GPS location with his profile picture. Hastily heading to Patricia's studio, I returned to the store and handed the engagement ring back to the attendant. Chapter 5. As I expected, Lucas hadn't come home for 2 days. He had gone to the beach with Patricia for their wedding photos, and sure enough, he had arranged for someone to Photoshop our faces into wedding photos. I had made up my mind to run away from the wedding. After this, the only time I'd probably see him would be on the anniversaries of my parents' death. I held 2 bouquets of flowers and went to the cemetery to visit them. I also added the cemetery manager on WeChat so I could ask him to manage things in the future. "I'll cover my parents' maintenance fees from now on, and please refuse any payments from Mr. Liu." The manager froze when he checked the system. "Miss, your parents' maintenance fees have been overdue for 6 months. We tried to contact the family, but the phone number was unreachable." Realizing that I had changed my phone number after going abroad, I couldn't help but feel frustrated with myself. Lucas didn't love me anymore. How could he possibly remember my deceased parents? I paid the overdue fees and prepaid for the next 10 years. Then, I left in desolation. But as I was leaving the cemetery, I heard a voice I could never forget. Lucas. I'm impressed you still remember today is Patricia's father's death anniversary. If the old man knew you were here drinking with him, he'd probably rise from his grave. I stiffly turned around to see Lucas, one arm around Patricia and the other around her mother, climbing the steps. Mrs. Liu, this is the least I could do. Foolish boy. Don't call me Mrs. Liu. Soon you'll be calling me Mom. Lucas smiled brightly and immediately called her Mom as she had suggested. My eyes reddened, and I silently went to meet my friends. When we sat down, I immediately told them the wedding was cancelled. They exchanged a look before tentatively asking, Helen, do you know already? I was surprised they knew as well. They indignantly showed me photos of Lucas and Patricia going to the hospital for their premarital checkup. Helen, we support you running away from this marriage. I'm dying to see the joke when Patricia, without a wedding, tries to hijack the wedding. Their words made me strangely anticipate what would happen. The day before the wedding, Lucas brought home a brand new pair of running shoes. I asked him casually, don't you hate running shoes? He paused for a moment, then patted my head. Tomorrow, I'll be running fast with the bride on my back. The bride he was referring to wasn't me. The smile that suddenly appeared on his face wasn't because of me. It seemed that having me publicly being hijacked from the wedding to prove his love for Patricia made him happy. The next day, I took a walk around the wedding venue. The huge posters magnified the traces of photoshopping on the wedding photos. I took out a pair of scissors, cut out the bright face of my younger self, and then took a taxi to the airport. When the flight attendant reminded me to turn off my phone, Lucas's calls flooded in. Chapter 6. I turned off my phone, opened the materials I had brought with me, and made a decision to return to my country and focus on my work. Lucas had no idea what I had given up for him. Now, with the wedding a thing of the past, I could concentrate on my research career. There was so much preparation for my new project that I didn't even have time to think about the wedding venue, or what it looked like at that moment. When I got off the plane, my mentor and senior students greeted me warmly. Welcome back, Helen. They were holding a banner, offering me flowers, and celebrating my return to the UK. It made many people turn their heads, thinking I was some kind of celebrity. Professor, this is quite the ceremony. My mentor put his arm around my shoulders and said kindly, Helen, we will always be your family. Your support. After seeing Lucas and Patricia's engagement, I had been struggling to control my emotions, but when my mentor spoke, all the grievances I had been holding back rushed out. One of my senior students handed me a tissue she had prepared earlier, comforting me with sympathy. Junior, Lucas is blind if he missed you. Our Helen deserves the best. Yes. If you're still angry, Senior will fly back and beat him up for you. I pouted and lay on my senior's shoulder, crying loudly. After my mother passed away, it was Lucas who stood by me during the darkest times. When Patricia and her mother bullied me, deliberately making my father think I was a bad child and distancing himself from me, it was still Lucas who protected me and comforted me. When I went abroad, I told Lucas clearly, if one day you don't love me anymore, just break up with me. I will bless you and move on. At that time, he cried like a fool but never once asked me to stay. Helen, I could never love anyone else. Go chase your dreams. I'll stay here, earn money, and wait for you to graduate and marry me. His vows from back then echoed in my mind. But the person who had made those promises had already changed. I thought we would weather life's storms together. Instead, he turned his back and abandoned me. After crying my heart out, all the suffocating resentment inside me started to fade. The bone-deep pain became a little more bearable. My mentor, seniors, and classmates took me home. They cooked a meal to celebrate my return. I immersed myself in the warmth, thankful that life hadn't been too cruel to me. Once the celebration died down, I lay in bed, finally daring to open my phone. At that point, Lucas was probably in the bridal suite. When I turned my phone on, I saw hundreds of missed calls from Lucas. It was more than all the calls he had made to me during our 2 years of long-distance relationship. WeChat and text messages flooded in one after another. I couldn't stand the bombardment and was about to turn my phone off again when his call came through. Helen, you finally picked up the phone. Where have you been? I've been calling and texting. Thinking something happened to you. And why did you move out of the house? I furrowed my brow, confused by his words. Hadn't he just let Patricia hijack our wedding? And now I was moving out and running away from it. Didn't that clearly mean we had no ties anymore? Why was he pretending to care now? Was it because without me as a comparison, his true love act with Patricia wouldn't be as much fun? When I had to undergo emergency surgery alone in the UK, he didn't even seem concerned. Lucas, congratulations on your wedding, but I don't want to be the fool who was hijacked. Lucas sounded frantic on the phone. Helen, what are you talking about? Hijacked? Are you misunderstanding me? I waited for you at the wedding for a whole day, and you didn't show up. I couldn't even contact your friends. It felt like you all agreed to disappear together. He was really good at pretending. He had even learned to mimic my trembling voice when I was emotional. It seemed like he was genuinely mad. Mad that I ran away from the wedding and made him and Patricia the joke of the day. I scrolled through the wedding video my friends had sent me, feeling disgusted by Lucas. Lucas, how come you and Patricia can plan to hijack my wedding, but I can't even escape from it? This wedding, I'm giving it to you as a gift for walking with me through my darkest times. My cold tones seemed to take him aback. But more than that, it made him angry. Helen, what are you causing a scene for? How could I let Patricia hijack our wedding? Besides, I'm your husband. No one can take me away from you. I know you're resentful toward her. I shouldn't have meddled in your relationship. But everything I did was for your own good. Don't be so sensitive, okay? His denial only made me lose interest. I saw you propose to her. The engagement ring didn't have a problem, it already had an owner. You had no time to take wedding photos with me, so you photoshopped them, but you had time to take photos with her on a cruise. You never came to see me in the UK, but you traveled thousands of miles every month for her. I know you married me just to fulfill a promise. I stepped aside to give you your wedding. Shouldn't you be happy about that? Why do you want me to expose everything and make us all embarrassed? Or do you think I should play along with your little drama to prove that you two are truly in love? Chapter 7. Lucas was speaking in a flurry. His words jumbled. Helen, it's not like that. Please, come back. I'll explain everything to you. What did he want to explain? Should I explain to the guests I invited to the wedding why I ran away? Should I explain why Patricia, dressed as the bridesmaid, outshone the bride and became the laughingstock? I had always been there for him when he wanted to start his own business. I applied for patents for the things I developed under his name. When he was short of funds, I gave him my father's inheritance to help him out. When he achieved success and fame, I thought about getting married. But he told me to wait. So, I kept studying hard, eventually earning a PhD in the UK, just to support him when I returned to China. He said he was too busy to visit me in the UK. So I flew back to see him. But what did he do? He spent time with Patricia, 100 kilometers away, whispering sweet words and showing her the places he promised to take me. He forgot that he had once prayed in front of Buddha, wishing that we would never be apart. At this point, his first reaction was to beg me to come back. How lowly must I be in his eyes that he thinks I'm just a dog he can summon and dismiss at will? Helen, I know these things hurt you. But I was just joking with Patricia. I would never let her successfully steal my bride. You must be feeling terrible right now. Tell me where you are, and I'll come and bring you home, okay? I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. Lucas, stop deceiving yourself. He just couldn't accept that I was the one who ended the relationship first. Helen, I'm not lying to you. Where are you? If you don't tell me, I'll search every inch of the earth until I find you and marry you. This life, I will only marry you. I will personally arrange the proposal, get you a big diamond ring, take you on a romantic wedding photo shoot, give you the dream wedding you've always wanted, and show you the aurora. His voice cracked as he spoke about marriage. After 10 years of our relationship, I had finally given up, and now he wanted to make good on his promises. But it was too late. I would never marry a man who didn't love me. I couldn't accept that he had fallen in love with the one person I despised most, and that he had lied to me so many times. I knew what I wanted, and he knew it too, but he never delivered. He had made too many empty promises, and now no one believed him anymore. Lucas, Thank you for walking with me through part of my journey. But we're done. Clinging on is really undignified. It used to be me who wouldn't let go. But now I have. I'm letting go. And I wish you happiness. Helen. I'll find you. I'll apologize. And I beg you to forgive me. Wait for me. His persistence left me indifferent. Stop acting. Patricia is a better match for you. Take good care of her. We don't need to meet again. Nor do we need to contact each other. I hung up and blocked him. After being kept in the dark for 2 years, I didn't want to be the fool following in his footsteps anymore. Chapter 8. The new day began with my mentor, along with my senior classmates. As we focused on research, we were so busy in the lab that we forgot to eat and sleep, and it felt incredibly fulfilling. In the past, I would sometimes daydream about Lucas and get reprimanded by my mentor. But now, fully immersed in the experiments, they began to worry about me. Helen, don't overwork yourself. You're stealing the limelight, and the teacher will blame us for not being diligent. Seeing the worried faces of my classmates warmed my heart. Those who truly loved me wouldn't let me overexert myself. But Lucas, for the past 2 years, knew how hard I worked just to see him, and he remained indifferent, treating me like a fool. After another fulfilling day, I walked home with my classmates, under the streetlights. But to my surprise, I ran into Lucas downstairs. When I saw him, I thought I had mistaken someone for him. In just half a month, he had lost so much weight. I tugged at my classmate's sleeve, trying to avoid him and go upstairs, but he immediately recognized me from behind. Helen! I kept walking, but he rushed up to me, his face lighting up as soon as he saw me. He held out a bouquet of fiery red roses, his eyes full of deep affection. Helen, I was wrong. Please, come home with me. I pushed the roses away, my face cold as I reminded him. If you keep chasing me like this, Patricia will be heartbroken. Besides, I've already broken up with you. If you keep pestering me, you'll only make yourself look bad. Lucas didn't get angry at my coldness. In fact, he patiently coaxed me. Helen, please listen to me. I was just confused for a moment when I agreed to play that ridiculous game with Patricia. The first time I came to the UK, I came to find you, but as soon as I got off the plane, I had an accident, and Patricia took care of me for half a month. I didn't want to worry you, and I was afraid you would be angry if you found out I was getting close to her. So I hid it from you. Later, I got drunk, and I mistook her for you. I was too embarrassed to face you. So I went back to China, but I never imagined that it would be Patricia's first time, and she got pregnant because of that night. I'm so sorry for her. I want to make it up to her, because she had an abortion for me, and I need to take responsibility for that. What a clumsy lie. No matter how he framed it, I wouldn't believe it. If he had really been drunk, he wouldn't have been able to do what he did. And if he hadn't been drunk, there was no way he would mistake her for me. Anyway, as long as I didn't provide evidence, he would continue to think that I couldn't see through his lies. He was just playing with my heart, relying on my love for him. Helen, didn't you say that no matter what I did wrong, if I admitted it, you would wait for me? I know I was wrong now, and I promise I'll never have anything to do with Patricia again. Can you give me a chance to start over? I did say that before, but this wasn't him acknowledging his mistakes. It was only when he realized he was about to lose me forever that he was forced to admit his faults. The man I once admired as a hero, the one I loved, had stripped off his disguise and turned out to be so despicable. I had been blind all along, failing to see his true face for 10 years. Chapter 9. Lucas stubbornly held on to me, not letting me go. My senior classmates, who had been holding back their anger, were no longer willing to stay quiet. You scumbag. Get the hell away. If you dare touch Helen again, I'll chop your hand off. My senior punched Lucas, forcing him to stagger backward. Lucas shifted his gaze to my senior, his eyes turning red with fury. Like a furious lion, he pointed at my senior and asked me, "Is he the reason you ran away from the wedding? How far have you two gone? Are you really going to be this cruel to get back at me?" I took a deep breath and slowly said, "Lucas, stop thinking the worst of people. The most important thing is, We're already broken up. I didn't agree to the breakup. I don't need your approval. I'm just telling you the outcome. After being punched and rejected by me, Lucas, with his pride wounded, immediately turned to my senior and lashed out. Helen is my wife. You, pretty boy, stay the hell away from her. He acted like a wild animal protecting its food. I didn't expect Lucas to get physical. My senior and his girlfriend, as a couple, quickly and skillfully subdued him, knocking him to the ground. I didn't want my senior and his girlfriend to get into unnecessary trouble because of me, so I stopped them. Forget it. Let's just go. Lucas spat out a mouthful of blood. Helen, how can you be so heartless? After 20 years, you can just walk away without a second thought. What do you think I am to you? His scream made me question whether he had been possessed by a ghost. He never thought he was wrong. He could run off with Patricia, but I couldn't. Was it my absence that made his escape less dramatic? Or was he just unwilling to accept that I was the one who finally played with his feelings? But he forgot that for the 2 years I was abroad, he betrayed me for 2 years, playing with my heart for 2 years, again and again. Each flight ticket was undeniable proof of his betrayal. But I didn't want to argue about who was right or wrong anymore. The moment I decided to run away from the wedding, this relationship had no room for reconciliation. Lucas, people have to look forward. You should go now. He clung to my pants leg, not letting go. Helen, no one is perfect. Can't you give me another chance? I promise I'll never lie to you again. Seeing that I had stopped, he shakily rose to one knee and pulled out a jewelry box from his pocket. Inside was a diamond ring even bigger and more dazzling than the one Patricia had. Helen, marry me, please? His figure now mirrored the one from when he proposed to Patricia. The image of them kissing passionately and mocking me resurfaced in my mind. But at that moment, I had no feelings left. The pain had been too deep, the hurt too sudden. Now I was immune. Just as I was about to refuse, a figure emerged from the shadows. He snatched the ring from Lucas's hand and ran off at full speed. Lucas, seeing his engagement ring being stolen, immediately swallowed his pain and ran after the man in black. My senior and I shook our heads and went back home. Chapter 10. The next day, the police contacted me. I learned that Lucas, in a desperate attempt to retrieve the ring, had chased the man in black for more than 10 blocks. When he finally caught up, the embarrassed thief pulled a knife from his pocket and stabbed him, leaving him in a pool of blood, lying in the hospital bed. Lucas's face was pale, void of color, but when he saw me, his eyes lit up with a glimmer of hope. Helen, you're here. His hoarse voice was full of longing. It was as if he had finally been reunited with the one he loved. I quickly shook my head and dismissed the thoughts in my mind. I've already notified Patricia. She should be able to come to the hospital and take care of you tonight. Helen, why are you calling her? I only want you to be here with me. You don't have to do anything. Just being here is enough to put my heart at ease. At that moment, Lucas's selfishness and indifference were laid bare. He wanted peace of mind, but seeing him only made me feel disgusted and uneasy. My distaste was evident on my face. Helen, can't you forgive me? He seemed to see a flicker of hope in my eyes. No, that flicker was extinguished. I'll cut ties with Patricia in front of you. I promise I'll love you like I did before. Protect you. His words grew quieter and quieter. The love and protection he once offered had already been repaid with 10 years of my youth. I couldn't bet another 10 years on him loving me the same way, especially since, in my heart, he was no longer the hero who protected me in the dark. Lucas, save some face for yourself. Don't force me to regret ever loving you. Helen, what do I have to do for you to forgive me? Why are you being so cruel? Because I don't love you anymore. Lucas collapsed onto the bed, his body crumpling in defeat. We locked eyes for a long time, and I could see the life slowly draining from his face. He could see clearly now, there was no trace of love for him in my eyes. Helen, how did we end up like this? We loved each other so much. How did it come to this? It's my fault for being so foolish, for deceiving myself. I shouldn't have sought excitement, shouldn't have trampled on your heart and caused you pain. Helen, I regret it. If the one I kissed under the aurora was you, If the one I watched penguins with in Antarctica was you, if the one I proposed to was you, maybe you wouldn't have run away from the wedding? I set the fruit I had bought for him down and turned to leave. Life doesn't have what ifs. As I closed the door behind me, I heard his pitiful sobs, like a trapped beast. But I didn't stop. I kept walking toward the lab, toward my bright future. In the end, Lucas and Patricia completely severed ties. He exposed their mistreatment of me and the cruel way they treated my father, causing a scandal throughout the city. He hoped that, upon hearing the news, I would look back at him one last time, but that was nothing more than his delusion.